Erik and I are back tonight to bring you another news update. And this time I've had a chance to do some of my own research. So Erik and I will share what we've both researched because I know from watching the news that when I was looking for news for us to share tonight, I have to tell you guys, I went to CNN, ABC, Fox. It was disheartening because if you're following the news in other places outside of those sources, it's very different news. So the only station where I felt like I got some semblance of the truth is NPR. And Erik, I don't even know if you're familiar with NPR.
Yeah, that's headquartered in Atlanta.
Okay. So I got some of my stuff I got from them, and I believe what I got there. So that's one of the sources that I accessed. So, Erik, welcome back.
Hello.
I'm starting off tonight with a little arrow, like your prediction was wrong. The war is still on, and based on what I researched, Trump was trying to get them or he was reporting that he was trying to get them to end the war. But when I did research, what I read is he's asking them, but they refuse. So for peace talks to end the war. So maybe you have some input on that because, as I said before, depending on where you're reading this stuff, it's really difficult to tell what to believe. But when I go to the sources where I normally get my news, I believe what they're reporting. And they're the ones who are pretty much saying our president reached out with the olive branch and it was rejected. So I wanted to hear what you have to say about that, and then I'll go to another story that's connected to the war that I'm hoping you could shed light on.
Well, I mean, it's going to be virtually impossible to know exactly who initiated what. Both sides have, Iran is just as untrustworthy as any of the information we get here. So I try not to look at it like that because I know that there's a mass psyop going on, and it's happening in about 15 different countries, and they're all pushing their own narrative. So I have to stop listening to what all news outlets are telling me, and I have to just look at what is actually happening, and that helps me kind of clarify what's real and what's not real. What we do know is that both Pakistan, CNN, and ABC or CBS, one of the three acronym channels, did confirm that talks were in place. So we do know that it did happen. We do know that Iran has rejected it. I did look at the 15 points that President Trump asked for. When I was reading down through it, I'm like, why would they not accept these? They're very reasonable. And it just shows that Iran really is not going to negotiate. Um, we have currently what we have maneuvering around. I was just looking at military sites earlier today, and we have the 82nd Airborne moving into place. We have more warships heading over there. We have the United States Marine Corps is there, ready, in place. Um, we have a lot going on. The Brits the Brits have a sub there now, so they have kind of secretly jumped in. Um, and that sub is loaded with Tomahawk missiles. So this could potentially turn into a big, huge ordeal. I don't think it is. I think Iran gets scared and backs out because they're expressing way more strength than what they have, and that's a Middle East way of doing things. They're always going to express strength no matter how weak they are. ISIS did it. Uh, Hamas they did it all the way up until they're almost extinct. So it's just something that they are always going to stand tall until they're completely wiped out, and that's just how it works. Um, So there are a lot of progressing things going on. The problem is now President Trump actually took the narrative and moved it back into the favor of the United States by offering, or however it worked. President Trump did offer a 15-point peace plan. By Iran rejecting the peace plan, now it puts the pressure on Iran because the whole world wants this issue resolved. President Trump issued a plan, Iran didn't even consider it, and now the pressure is going to be put back on them. Iran did just recently today reach out to India, trying to get Prime Minister Modi to talk to President Trump to get things de-escalated. I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if Modi reached out to Trump or not, but that's what's being reported over in the Middle East right now. So there's a lot of moving parts going on, and so I think it's very important to kind of tune out media and just watch the maneuvering that's happening with England getting involved. The French are now providing maritime intelligence to the United States. So there's more countries trying to assist, and I think it's mainly to get this done and over with. It's hurting the global markets. It's not just hurting the United States. It's hurting Iran's global markets. They can't get anything done. Now, Iran did allow 10 oil tankers to be released from the Strait of Hormuz. That happened today. And that was they called it a gift to President Trump. So there are things happening. So I still do believe that this war is not going to happen. I do think that there's
But
still
it
going to be a
is
lot.
happening, Eric. The war is happening. I mean,
This
when
isn't
you and
this
I,
isn't really. It's not really a war, Jennylyn. This is just airstrikes.
but to
There's
me,
no.
if you're dropping bombs and killing people, what's the other name for that? A lot of
I
people.
mean,
Here's
if
the
you have
thing,
to.
Eric, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't feel like the truth is being reported. They're saying there's a lot more damage being done to Israel and happening in Iran than's being reported. I mean, think about you and I did the first segment and I predicted this war. You said you didn't think there'd be a war. And from then to now, it's been about a month, and this strike is going on since then. All I'm saying, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm asking if it's not a war, what is it?
Well, I mean,
Especially when other countries are now getting involved.
so
And
it's.
contrary to what they're reporting, I read several places where Iran is the one who will decide when the war is over. This is what's coming from journalists on the ground in those areas that I follow.
But do you also know that Iran picks and chooses what journalists they allow in their country? So they are going to pick journalists that will peddle their narrative. We have to remember that.
No, but some of these journalists are on the ground in Israel. And they are reporting from Israel that we aren't being told the truth about what's really happening to Israel.
Well, yeah, Israel. We know Israel's taking hits. They're not knocking everything down. Iran's using cluster bombs. Cluster bombs are like basically blowing up shrapnel all over civilian areas. We know that that's happening, and they are doing a lot of damage to Israel. The media is not really lying about that. They're just trying to avoid it. We know Tel Aviv has taken a beating.
What do you mean they're trying to avoid it? Isn't the news media's responsibility to report the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? You can't pick parts of the story. And this is my issue, my frustration with news in when it's being reported with a slant, because that's what I call it. They're not telling everything that's happening. They're telling portions of what supports what they're training your mind to believe in the story they're trying to sell you, right?
But you have to understand that they run off of ratings. So it's our own American ignorance to continue to watch these news outlets that continue to change, that continue to peddle a narrative on us. It's our own fault. If we stop watching these news outlets, they will go bankrupt. And then they'll go, well, we probably should have told the truth. Now we're bankrupt. So that is why apps like X and TikTok are more they're more widely used for the news than major news outlets, because people are moving away from the news, which is why I've had to totally plug out at least legacy media, because their narrative is so thick right now that you look at CNN, they've got somebody from the IRGC or the Iranian government on CNN every day. And what is CNN going to do? They're going to peddle everything anti-Trump, which I don't agree with everything that President Trump is doing with this war. However, we have soldiers over there to divide this country and to take precedence away from our American soldiers that are over defending our country is an atrocity of this country. So that's the part of it. I don't want war. I don't think anybody wants war. But when we have our sons and daughters and
I
our brothers and
disagree with
sisters,
you, Eric. There's a lot of people, you and I, and the regular human on the planet, whose lives are being affected because the soldiers are connected to us. We don't want war. But there's a large percentage of people running the world who want war
I wouldn't
because
call that
they're
a large
benefiting from
percentage.
it.
I mean, I'm talking. I don't care what the world leaders do. They're all going to be in the wrong in the end of this.
I
What
hope
I care
so.
about is what the people. It's not the global elites in all countries, including Iran. They're all wrong, and they're all doing things ass backwards. Pardon my French,
Mhm.
but it's the people that aren't privy to that 1% group. It's the people that it's our children and our families and our friends that are all fighting this war. So for us to be ignorant, to buy into all the media slanders, to create a division where half of the country. I just saw a protest in New York City where I don't know what country they were from, but they were Middle Eastern. They said we can't wait to start watching dead Americans come back. That we can't have that. That's not acceptable. And no matter who's right or who's wrong, it's an American soldier over there fighting. It's my neighbor's kid. It's my nephew. I can't stand, no matter who the president is. I don't care if this was Joe Biden. I don't care if it's Barack Obama, which both of them were engaged in wars. I don't care which president it is. If we have American blood overseas, I want them all to come back. I want them all to win the war. I want them to be valiant and fight for this country, just as this country was built and based upon.
Well, I agree with you, Eric, and I have to tell you that for at least the last few centuries, we've had these wars. There are people like you and I saying this, but it continues.
It's
And
it's never
this
going to
is
stop.
my frustration because these young kids sign up in the armed forces, and a lot of them do it because I'm sure that they'll go in not wanting to be at war. But once you commit to it, you have to do what you're told. And so, for me, we could sit there and you and I could talk about this till we're blue in the face, but it continues to happen. There has to be a way where these wars should stop, because I have been doing so much research, looking everywhere, trying to understand why we started in the first place. How is this benefiting American people, this war? And I have to tell you, sadly, can't seem to come up with the answer. And so people like you and I, we agree that young people, young lives in America are just being sent out there to fight these stupid, unnecessary wars, because I can't come up with the necessary point that we are defending. So we're sending a bunch of our American citizens to die for what? And on top of that, the consequences those of us at home are facing because of this war. Have you gone to put gas in your car lately?
I mean, our country's so privileged. I don't think of it that way. We have it made better than anybody else in the world.
Are you sure about that, Eric?
We have
I have
a
to say
fifty
I
thousand
disagree.
we had a $50,000 Dow Jones not too long ago. I think we're doing way better than the rest of the world.
But you are speaking of some of America. I am speaking for the average American, and I know a lot of people who can't afford to put gas in their cars to go to work.
And
And
it's
these
our own
are the
fault.
people that I'm always representing in these shows. I'm
I
not
mean, it's,
talking about the Americans who can afford who are not being affected. A large percentage of Americans are being affected by what is happening. And those people need a voice. They're the
I mean,
ones that drive my fuel, my passion, because it's not right. Because you know what else? They're the ones who work the hardest.
yeah, they should be taken care of as well. However, there has to be a system. It's not going to be a handout system, and they're going to have to figure out a way to get to these people, whether it's through caseworkers or whatnot,
But
and
wait, I
bring.
don't even understand how we're using the word handout when some of these people have two, three jobs. Can you imagine having two, three jobs? You can't even spend time with your children. I
Think about
know a
this.
lot of these people.
So there's a future contingency that I hope that every American takes advantage of. And this doesn't solve the problem now, but it solves the problem in 18 years. When President Trump issued the $1,000 investment for each child born this year, and what that investment will reach by the time these children turn 18 is going to end a lot of poverty. All the parents have to do is not touch that money, and each kid will graduate high school with a nest egg. And that's going to be crucial, and no one in this on this earth is talking about how crucial that is. Not only does it strengthen our economy, but it puts kids in at-risk communities. It gives them a $3,000 to start their life with, to move forward with, so when they turn 18 they can either continue to roll that investment over, if they need it they can cash it out. So we're at a precipice where the system has been restructured, and the system can be put together in a different kind of way that does start to raise the poverty bar to where there's not going to be as much poverty.
So, like, here's my thing. To me, if our government wants to give the average American a chance to start life, okay, then they will revamp the education system. And this is a whole different ballgame. So that the average young American is not starting their life off in debt. Do young people really need to spend the kind of money they spend on education? And does that education really benefit them? That's a whole nother can of worms. But to me, this program you just mentioned, how does that help them when you're pretty much forced to go to college? Otherwise, you're seen as a dummy or like something is wrong with you and you're graduating in debt.
Well,
I
one thing that I'm gonna agree with Charlie Kirk, and I was not a huge Charlie Kirk fan, but there's one thing that I did agree with him on, and it is that college is overrated. You go into debt, and you go talk to any college graduate, and you're going to find a high percentage of them aren't even in the field of their study, and that's a problem. That's a huge problem. And so when you really weigh out, the amount of college versus, you know, what you're doing with it, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And so I think that the focus needs to go on trade schools. I think there needs to be a trade school available within a 5 mile radius of every metro city area. That will solve a lot of problems, because what we do need is skilled labor like plumbers, electricians, construction foremen, things like that. We have a shortage of HVAC technicians in this country. And what solves that? Putting more people through trade schools. For one, you're only going to go into debt maybe $1,000, and you're gonna have the ability to make 40 to $50 an hour in this trade. Whereas college can't promise you that. College is going to give you a $200,000 debt at some universities, and then you may or may not be in your field of study. So, you know, what's the most saturated uh, field in in the United States that everybody continues to go into? You're looking at well, for one, the psychology field is used to be saturated, but it's not anymore because now everybody has mental health issues. So that's a field where if you wanted to go into the psychology world at college level, you could. Teachers are oversaturated. There's too many teachers for the amount of teaching jobs. So nurses, the medical field, we always need medical professionals. However, everybody has a medical background, so it's a hit and miss when you look at the colleges and universities. I, I I look back at my education and I continue to sit here and think, what a waste of time and money. I wish I
Thank
had
you.
not done
So
that.
at least we're speaking the same language. In my opinion, you enter these children into the school system between 4 and 5. By the time they're 10, 12, you should be able to decide or help them to figure out where their strengths are and what they
Yeah.
enjoy doing. And then instead of forcing them through academia with a whole bunch of subjects that are not relevant to anything they want to do, and forcing them to divert from their natural innate gifts, and then forcing them on a path where they have to put themselves through a system that is putting them in debt, that's where they should start if they want to give the average American a chance at life. But to me, and this is my point, instead of these wars, why don't we fix home? And then when everybody at home has a chance at medical care and keeping a roof over their head and food on the table, then we can engage in projects outside of the country that is not, beneficial, that even though it may not benefit us, we are taken care of.
So
Because
it's a
we
catch
pay
it's a
into
catch
that.
22. It's a catch 22, and here's why. Let's isolate the school systems. Let's isolate the universities. A lot of universities are state schools, a lot of universities are private. So the state schools are generally less expensive than private universities, right? However, the private universities are the more prestigious universities to go to that everybody wants to go to if you're smart. I'm not saying state universities is for dumb people. There's lots of smart people that go through state universities. However, when you look at a private university, the United States Constitution prevents the United States government from telling a private university what to do with their money. It prevents them from giving a maximum tuition rate. They can't do it. The institution runs on its own entity. It is a business per se. So that stops the government from interfering in private institutions. Now they could make public universities more affordable. They could do more things. There's no sense when you get your bill for your books that you got a $1,200 bill for textbooks that you've got five of them. Like, come on, what book? I could go buy the thickest book in a bookstore, and it's only going to be $25. Like, why is each textbook $300 to $400? That's ridiculous. That's the colleges and universities using and abusing our profit system in this country. And I do think that that's something that they need to look at as far as the state institutions. Now, if they drastically reduce the state tuition, you're going to see more and more college students migrate towards a state university because the private institutions are going to be a huge scam and price gouge. Um, but the problem you're going to instill is only the wealthy are going to be able to afford to go to private institutions. So therefore, you're just enabling the elitist mentality. So your Columbias and your Harvards and your whatnot, and which what Harvard has a over $1 billion endowment. They don't need to raise prices ever. They could afford the tuition for a year for each student. So you have to look at it through that lens. We can't just fix the education system. Now, public high schools and stuff like that, that is a failed system. Our public school systems is a huge failed system. And the problem is our politicians refuse to acknowledge it as that. I think some of them do, but the majority of them think the public school system is a great institution. It's not. We are so far behind. And anybody can go do their research. There's a fifth grade test that everybody in the world takes. It's the PISA test, PISA, and we rank in the 20s every single time our fifth graders take it. We are in the middle tier educations of the world. We do not beat a single Asian country in fifth grade education.
That's my
That's a
point,
problem.
Eric. That's why we shouldn't be in this war. That's my whole point. But one thing to keep in mind, the people who own the education system, public and private, the people who own the medical system, the people who owns the banking system, the people who own the politicians, these are the people behind everything we are discussing. And they don't really care about any of what we're talking about. They have one agenda, is to have us play their game, work hard, and they reap the benefits. And that's why they don't like me, because they know I know what is going on. But the reason you and I do these segments, because we have some people that believe us because they watch us, right? I am trying to help bring some semblance of what feels like madness to me in the world and in our country to them, some semblance of the truth. As both you and I have acknowledged, that is really difficult in today's world because you don't know who to believe. As you pointed out earlier, even people reporting on the ground in Iran, you can't really trust them because they are approved by the Iran government, so therefore the reporting is biased probably. I am suggesting because they have been hand selected to report the news. So unless you go there and you're in it, and then even then you don't know because you can't see everything happening everywhere at the same time. And so I didn't want us to deviate too far and end up talking about education because we're doing news updates. And that's the reason I interrupt you and kind of put this back in a nutshell to come back to the news. Because we're almost out of time and I didn't want us to run out without us getting your version because you said this is not a war. So okay, it's not a war, but it's something that's costing American money. Not only it's costing America money and the countries participating, it's costing them money and lives, just like us. So my question to you, Eric, is you do a lot more research than I. What is your gut feeling for what is going to happen now? Because you didn't think they'd still be fighting this week or
Well,
whatever they're doing.
it's going to be up to Iran. They have to come to the negotiation table. I was watching one of the biggest hacks in the world speak right before me. I was on the Republic this morning, which is a whole other different story. But it was Jeffrey Sachs, and he's a big name. You know, he's basically a European puppet that lives in the United States. He didn't say not one good thing about America the whole time he was on there, and um, and he comes from a big, huge, wealthy family. He's an elitist, and I just don't see. You know, he says this is going to turn into a big, long, drawn out war where so many people die because we have psychopaths running the country and blah blah blah. Um, I just he's a hack. He's always been a hack. He's mentioned in my book. He's part of that group. So as soon as I saw him on there, I was like, y'all can't find anybody else better to come on your channel besides Jeffrey Sachs. Like, come on. Guys, he's mad at Trump because Trump shut down the 17 sustainable development goals in the United States and he lost millions and millions of dollars from that. That's why he hates Donald Trump. Let's get real. Anyway, it's a big it's going to be hard to really navigate and dictate what the next step is. It's going to come down to Iran. They have to come to the negotiation table, whether it's Modi talking to Iran and Trump, or Pakistan's prime minister that's been trying to table talks. Somebody's going to have to really get in there and take the lead, take the initiative. I believe that President Trump will make a deal. That's what he does. He's a deal maker.
But Erik, I read today, and this was reported by the NPR journalist, that one of the things that Iran is asking of Trump is for us to pay their expenses to repair the things that the places and sites that we've damaged.
Yeah,
So for me, when I hear that kind of verbiage, when I hear that kind of demands being made, I don't see this ending anytime soon, because if they are going to end the war and what they're asking for, we know we can't and won't deliver, I don't see it ending. That's my educated guess based on the facts that I've researched. Because we wouldn't pay to repair any damages that we caused, right? You know that we need repairs here.
Well, we don't have to go in there and repair it, because what we'll do is we'll go get Liz Cheney and Halliburton, and so she can make $1 bajillion, and we'll have Halliburton go in there and do it. And the American taxpayers will pay for it. That's how that works. Every time we blow up stuff, the private equity, or the private companies like Dick Cheney's, Halliburton, and all these huge companies, they go in and they rebuild it. So that's what will happen.
Hold that thought, because I want you to tell me this too. This is one thing I really wanted you to explain for us. One of the things that Trump is asking of Iran is for them, they're forcing them to open the Straits of Hormuz so that we could continue our energy export flow. And you know that they're not going to answer, they're not going to honor any of our requests, because part of what they want from us, we won't give, and what we are asking of them, they won't give. So just based on my very immature research, I've already seen some impasses. So how do you explain that?
Well, the pressure is going to come from outside of the United States and outside of Israel. The problem that Iran has with the Strait of Hormuz is it's not theirs. It's international. So they are in violation of international law by closing the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the international courts don't really hold any bearing on anything, but Iran needs to win the narrative. So if they continue to refuse to open the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to damage the energy sector, eventually Europe's going to start speaking out against them. Turkey's already speaking out against them. You're going to start seeing all these countries that were staying out of it, they're going to start getting involved, because that strait hurts the global markets. So that's what's going to, the deciding point on that is going to be the pressure coming from other countries that have remained neutral, that are now getting involved, because they're tired of paying high energy prices. And Iran, who's violating international law, is causing the problem.
So how did they close it if it's not part of the, they're somehow connected to it? I didn't have a chance to really look at how it's physically located, because I did this research right before.
Well, that waterway is not owned by anybody.
It's not.
No.
So then how come they closed it, and why can't someone just go in and
they didn't close it. They just threatened to blow up anything that goes through there.
I see. That's why I wanted to discuss it with you. I figured you'd know the details.
That's why you have hundreds of ships. Just if you watch the maps of where all the ships are at, they're all just sitting there before the strait, because they're afraid to cross, because they're going to get blown up. And Iran went and put a bunch of mines in the water through there, so they're trying to clear those out too.
And so while that's happening, oil prices skyrocket around the world.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. When you think of a bunch of egos and everyone else is dealing with the trickle down, it's infuriating.
Well, and you have to think about it. Iran doesn't have anything to lose when you think about it. Like they have no problem dying for Allah. That's an honor in their culture. So they say, who cares? Come in, invade. If we die, we go where we want to be anyway. So you have to look at the culture, and that is how they. It's a heavy influence in how they make their decisions. They don't care. Just come in and fight. We'll die for it, and we'll kill some Americans along the way. Like I said, I was on the Republic today, and they had one of this Iranian gentleman on there that was very close to the IRGC. And the Republic sets me up all the time. They actually told me one time, they're like, "Look, we know you're going to come in and you're going to do your thing." And what they did was they brought this guy in, and he's been on all of the global news all over the world, including the United States, talking about how awesome Iran is and how they're winning the war and they're killing everyone. And that was the first thing out of his mouth was, I can't wait to turn the Gulf into a cemetery of Americans." And I said, I mean, you got a lot of high skilled troops sitting over there. I think at the end of this, you guys are going to have to rename Iran and respell it on the map to Iran. So that did make it. That did make it on international news, and
it will make it on Jennylyn's news. How about that? So, as always, Erik, the time flies. We're out of time. Thank you so much, people. I'm looking forward to the week when Erik and I are giving you the update with a glass of champagne because the war, or whatever they call what's happening, is over, and we can return to some semblance of normalcy. One of the things I wanted to discuss, but we didn't have enough time, is Delta Airlines today giving the government an ultimatum: pay TSA people or we're done catering to you, so to speak. But we're out of time, and we'll keep it for next week. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. We try to bring you the truth best we can, challenging as it is. And we will be back next week with another update. Thank you.